Let's bring you some reaction to this. We're joined by political analyst Thobani Zikalala. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newzroom Afrika. We've just listened to former President Jacob Zuma essentially speaking on the platform as an MK party member. Well, he's put his side with the newly formed Umkhonto weSizwe party. And he says that he's still with the ANC, but he's going to be voting for the MK party. How big a concern is it, especially with the hovering threat of KwaZulu-Natal? Elections are around the corner. He's calling President Ramaphosa a dictator. How much of a concern is he to the ANC?
Good evening, Mastor, and good evening to your viewers. I think the MK party and, of course, Jacob Zuma are going to be a very big thorn in the flesh of the ANC, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. We all know that the former President Jacob Zuma enjoys my very big support in KwaZulu-Natal. I think the event today also is a show of force from him and his supporters of Umkhonto weSizwe to show that how much people have taken up to this idea of Umkhonto weSizwe and how many people are willing to follow him to this new MK party. Of course, the MK party and how it has come about comes across as a bit of an organized chaos, right? And it has shown also that maybe sometimes the South African voter is not too much invested in big policy and big political jargon. And sometimes the South African voter is very nostalgic and very emotional in that they are attached more to personalities and much more than they are attached to parties. And this is as shown in how in the past at least 2 weeks or past 10 days that the MK party has been introduced to the public. We have not seen much of the party speaking about its policies, its structures, its election machinery, but we have seen a large number of people coming out to say they are going to support. And maybe today was a big show of force on that side. And that for me should very much be a big concern of the ANC leadership, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, when he speaks about the idea of Ramaphosa as a dictator, some people will raise eyebrows. But the issue here is how much of internal democracy and democracy being seen to be performed and to be seen in the ANC, as we've seen in the past 5 to 7 years that Ramaphosa has been president of the ANC. It seems that the hegemonic force and the hegemonic faction in the ANC seems to enjoy much more public opinion and much more opinion on the affairs of the ANC. And those who are seen to be opposed to that they are deemed to be bitter and holding on to the. It does not spring well for what democracy and internal democracy should be about. And maybe there is some truth to what the former president was saying. But of course, those who are ANC members will have to speak for themselves in terms of, is there real democracy being performed in the ANC where those who differ with leadership are able to have a view and that view is not ostracized, is not pushed aside. Of course, the MK party will have to do much more work, as I've said, on organizing itself, because the elections in South Africa are not going to be easy. And if you look at the fact that the elections are in less than 5 days, there is a lot to be done, especially in introducing some sort of structure in the party. Of course, we have seen in the recent times that the people seem to have taken up to the idea. But you will have to organize this chaos. You will have to organize these people to turn them into real ground forces or ground soldiers of the party, to be able to go into people's houses and convince much more people to vote for them. Of course, there's a big sizable number of voters that they could always chat to. There's a big number of so-called disgruntled voters of the ANC that they could tap into, but they can't always rely on the image, the influence, and the legacy of the president, former President Jacob Zuma. They will have to really organize themselves to go and organize and canvass for those votes.
In that organization, we're also learning that the ANC national leadership is going to deploy Thobani Zuma as well as Zweli Mkhize to assist with the ANC's election campaign in KZN, given the recent developments where we know that both Thobani Zuma and Zweli Mkhize ran against President Ramaphosa in the ANC's elective conference at Nasrec in Gauteng last year and voted for an impeachment process to be instituted against him in Parliament, contrary to the ruling party's instruction. How do you see that strategy, well, proving effective for the ANC?
I think, of course, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma and Dr. Zweli Mkhize are senior leaders of the ANC, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. Dr. Zweli Mkhize enjoys much more public support and public admiration. Nkosazana Zuma has not been a very big colossal figure, but of course her legacy as a senior government leader and a leader of the ANC will hold on for the ANC. But for me, the big thing is it will be very difficult for the ANC, if the MK party is able to organize itself properly, to go against the influence and the image of President Jacob Zuma in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. I mean, both these speakers, yes, they are senior, yes, they have experience, yes, they are well known in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, but none of them come almost equal to the influence that President Jacob Zuma has in the provinces. I mean, we have seen for the MK party, if you have seen the rallies or the support rallies of the president outside his court appearances, when he goes into the public, how much people are able how much people love him. It would be very difficult.
Bit of a connection issue there, but speaking to Thobani Zikalala, political analyst, just trying to help us make sense of really getting a sense of former President Jacob Zuma's briefing today under the MK party banner, and speaking ahead of elections in the next few months, what the ANC strategy will need to be and the influence of the former President Jacob Zuma in KZN. So